Hey guys, I'm starting a little short series here about songwriting, and I wanted to take you all through some stuff here. Just trying to make my contribution here. Show you a little piece that I wrote, and we're going to listen to it all the way through, and then I'm going to go back and comment on different sections and sort of show you my thought processes in writing this. Maybe just to try to encourage some young songwriters or So what I want to do here is I'm going to start this over again. I'm going to go through and I'm going to stop it at each point. I'm going to show you and tell you what I'm thinking when I wrote this. And hopefully this will help. As a prerequisite, you're probably going to want to feel somewhat familiar with the circle of fifths here, but it shouldn't be too hard for me to show you exactly what's going on. So let's take a look at the first part here. Watch right here. I'm going to count out the parts in this first part. Let's go over that again. So there's 4 parts in the first part. And I'm going to talk to you about the lead. I'm going to have my son Jonathan come and get a lead going over the top of this. And then I'll bring that back and I'll show you the 2 videos put together in probably the next video. But let's watch this again. I'm going to count them out with there's 4 sections in the first section of this song. There's 4 right there. And if you take a look at the chord that I'm playing right here, it's really not a complete chord. It's not actually a complete chord. Let me just take a look over here and see. There we go. Okay. So it's not actually a complete chord. What I'm playing right here is a G, a G, and a D. So that little riff, okay, that little riff is actually in 6/8 time. That little riff right there of the G and the D, specifically, I liked it. I just sat down and I got that little part and I thought to myself, well, I kind of like that. It's fun, and I could see there's a lot of stuff that could come over that. And because I'm only using a G and a D note right there, the soloist could come over that in the key of B flat, the key of F, the key of C, the key of G, the key of D, and the key of A. Yeah. So 6 keys along that circle of fifths. Okay, now I'll probably pop some graphics in this when I get down to edit on this video, so you can see what I'm talking about. That's the first part. That's where the intro solo is going to be. Now let's take a look at the next part, and you'll see how I do 3 of the same part with slight variations. Actually, I do 2 of the same, and then a third one that's similar with a slight variation leading into a next part, a return around to a different key. Okay? So this next one, take a look here. So I'm counting out 4 of those again. And now I'm going to pick to emphasize a G major chord right there. And now a little piece of solo work, and then I pick a C chord right there to define this as the key of G major. Now we're going to play that same thing again. I have to make that choice of what key I want this to go into. Picking the G chord, little run, and now I pick the C note to fill that out as the key of G major. Now we're going to play something slightly different. Again, we're playing the G major chord. Here comes the G major chord, right there. Now after the little run, I pick the C sharp, because that's suggesting I'm in D major, and now I'm finishing this in D major right here. Here we go. Now right here I'm going minor. I just shifted over to G Dorian right there by emphasizing D minor and then F. So I'm working in a G Dorian. Here's the Dorian scale. Now I'm back into that Dorian, C minor, back into, I can think of this as G or D. We're back in D major. We're going to finish it at D major here. Okay? All right. Okay, so I want to take you guys here, and I want to pull this up here. I'm going to go ahead and show you each of those chords that I'm doing as I go through that. Okay? And why I'm thinking that way. So when I have Jonathan come back and do his solo work over the top of this, at that first thing, he's got a very, very wide palette that he can easily explore in his lead work to put a lot of different flavors in there. And it's just giving us a sandbox because, you know, if we're playing jazz, I can throw anything we want in there. Well, you know, not really, but it's just a running joke about it. So we've got this, then I pick the G chord, right? And then, so what is that chord right there? That is a really bizarre little chord right there because I've got a C, a D, and an A. I'm going to think of it as an A minor 4, but it's really incomplete, right? It's got a nice little sound to it. There's a lot of notes you could put in there to complete that into a chord form in different directions. The next time through, we've got a G, an E, and a C sharp, which is a diminished chord. Okay, and that's the one that gives us the hint that we're trying to go to D major, because that diminished chord, I could use it like Swiss Army knife and go from there and shift it up a minor third, and then jump out of there into some other stuff. I could even choose to take it from a half diminished chord into a full diminished seventh, which would even open that door further. But instead, I want to use it the way that we would naturally think of it, as the 7 coming to D major. So I'm taking the D major, 9ing it. Now I'm down here on an E minor, which would be the E Dorian chord. There's the dim chord, half diminished chord again, and back to the D, right? And then crush it to the D minor, grab the F as a sort of sudden turn, back to that same intro riff again, okay? But now, because I've made that turn, and I tried not to force it so it was so jarring and so sudden, I tried to make it smooth. I could have extended it in there to make that transition smoother, But we're back here, and this time I did that because I'm fully intending for this to be G Dorian. And now I grab, instead of the B, I grab the B flat. Right? Okay. Now, D minor 7. Now, what in the world is that? That's a G Dom 7 chord. That's the feel of a G Dom 7 chord. That G Dom 7 chord is going to lead me back to, when I do my little passing tone, to a C minor. There's the C minor. And then we go. This is all D major. There's an A, a D. Now I'm back, and now I've reestablished myself on the D major chord. Now that's kind of an interesting thing, isn't it? Because if we came from the C minor to the D major, that is really like a relative major, right? It's a chord substitution. It's a chord substitution because I'm trying to think of any place where we would have that. And there is no place in the diatonic keys where we would have C minor go into that D major. So that's a chord substitution there, but it gets me there, and it's a classic feel. I think you can hear that. If you listen to a lot of songs, you'll hear that. Right? Pretty snazzy. Okay. So now we're back at the D major, right? Okay. We've made it all the way back to the D major. And I'm thinking D major. That's what I'm thinking here through the whole outro. Okay. E minor 7, right? This is going to be an A6, leading suspended into an A dominant 7. So that makes sense, right? E minor 7, A dom 7, that's the 5 now in D, because I'm wanting to end on D here. I'm sort of circling the wagons. Throwing in that little 7th run, the C sharp, which is the 7th in D. So again, I'm still emphasizing that same idea. And now we're back to the same thing. Now, I didn't get the end quite as sweet as I would like it. I'd like it to slow down a little more. I might redo it before I have John come over the top of it. But that's basically the chord structure in there. Now, I want to talk to you about the thought process there for me. So I started with that idea, this. It's 6/8, and it's just G and D. But it sort of outlines for me that chord, and it started in my mind. Literally, it's all those possible keys. And I thought, well, what's it going to sound like if I go with the G major chord? Once you put the G major chord in there, now, there's different ways you can think about this. So there's the way in which you can say, well, you know, if I know my modulations, I know how to do timings and cadences, I can pretty much go from any spot to any other spot. 'Tis true, 'tis true. You can make some very bold jumps, which I would define as being part of sort of like if you were to look at tonnets. Tonnets is about chords that are similar enough that you're not making too radical of a jump when you make those changes. And you can use that to get all over the place. It's typically taught to jazz students. But it's very useful in a lot of contemporary guitar settings. However, once I'm at that G chord, I now took those 6 possible keys of that original little riff, and I've narrowed it down to that we're either looking at C, G, or D. 3. Okay? So I started first by saying, what's this going to be like if I let that first one be thought of as being in G major, right? And the reason it's G major is because remember your music memory. When I do this riff, there's the F sharp right there, right? So I could have gone. Doesn't feel as bright to me. You can make that choice to put the F. But because I had recently struck the F sharp, I'm thinking of this C now as telling me that I'm in the key of G. So I let that roll again. I let that exact same one roll one more time. Where, Adam Neely, repetition legitimizes, right? The third time through there, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I had that G chord, and I know I've got these keys that I could easily be interpreting that as being in. Let's try a different one. Let's bring it up to the D major. And that's beautiful because of the dissonance of that, right? So then we're flirting with the D. The next time through, same pattern again, but now I'm looking for the minor. And I don't necessarily want Aeolian minor, and it turns out that I felt like this sounds best when I'm thinking of it in terms of G Dorian. So I've kind of said the same thing to you twice, but what I want to emphasize for you here is that just the way you saw me do this, you can start doing that with anything that you're working with. Anything that you're working with, there's always going to be some way for you to take a knowledge of the circle of fifths, and if you're Rick Beato, you're going to be doing the double diminished Hungarian minor or something. That's going to be in your wheelhouse too. And kudos, Rick. It's impressive, right? But what I'm saying to you is you don't need that. You don't have to have that in order to take a really, really rich journey through all the different harmonic and melodic possibilities that the circle of fifths might offer to you. Okay. And you can always thin it out into pentatonics too if you want to. I didn't feel an urge to go out and to thin that out to a G minor pentatonic. I think that would be the G minor pentatonic right there. Would fit over that, over Dorian, or Aeolian. I think it fits over both of them. But yeah, so think about that. This is my encouragement to you, you young artists out there. You're writing your own music. Go out and take this journey, and don't feel limited in how you're writing at all to be in a certain key. Realize that if you're in a certain spot, if you just hold one note long enough, after the mind hears that note, especially if you got some other stuff going on, like maybe you got some just bass rhythm, some nice rhythm section behind you, just hold that one note for a while. You're going to be able to jump from that one note to almost any place that you might want to go. And you're going to find, just almost an infinite number of possibilities there. So that's my encouragement for you. I hope you guys come back and check out the second video here, in which I'm going to have my son Jonathan work some leads over the top of that, and then see what you guys think of it. So, all right. God bless. We'll talk to you guys soon.